We're here. We're live on the internet. We made it.
It's fine.
Let's get this party
It's
started.
fine. It's alive. Hi, everyone in chat.
I got to DJ a dance the other week, and I started the night off with that Black Eyed Peas song that's like, "Let's get it started."
Oh,
yeah.
Get the party started.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was absolutely delighted, and I picked like the cheesiest like 90s and early 2000s pop, and it turns out that was exactly the right crowd. Everybody loved it.
Yeah. It all
like my criticism. My criticisms were, "You're killing me. I want to dance to everything."
That's a good criticism to have.
I know, right? I was very proud of myself. Hello, everybody in chat. We have Asa and Melanie and Lisa, Liz, Nikki, Raspberry, Knit and Crochet, Sandy, and Ashton.
Hello.
We have so many people in chat.
Hello.
This is so weird and exciting. This never stops being weird. Never stops being weird. Oh, and Knitting Purple's in chat as well.
Hello. Hello.
Bonjour.
What number are we?
Bienvenue.
I didn't actually ask this time.
357. I updated the sign and then realized after the fact that the sign doesn't actually show up when I'm using the overlay for the live stream. So there's a sign in my background. It's just not in the frame.
You made the overlay. I didn't do it.
I know, but it's such a pretty overlay.
It is.
I'm very loud. Sorry, friends, if I've been blowing out your ears.
It's usually the other way around. I'm positive you checked my volume.
I checked both our volumes. I guess I just got too excited there. I'll just move that a little farther away from my face.
Lower that a little. Lower it a little. Alrighty. We're going to do a podcast episode. In theory. Let's see how we do.
It's a good theory.
In theory. Guys, welcome to the Northern Knits Podcast. We're two friends in fiber who knit, craft, crochet, and talk everything in between. My name is Jocelyn, and my co-host is...
Diana.
Doing great already.
I know there's a lag on your end, but I was right on time on my end.
Okay. Oh, gosh. I did the whole awkward take your socks off with your feet maneuver. Oh, I'm a little warm.
Count. I'm sitting in a sunbeam. I'm also quite warm.
Oh, my God. It is episode 357. Do I remember that correctly?
Yes.
I'm going to promptly drop that information out of my head. And on this, while Nova Scotia might be getting like 50 million feet of snow, Manitoba has rain and +2 with no snow.
Southern Ontario has +5 and sun. The snow's going away real fast.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there's pockets of snow somewhere, just not around me. So we have a interesting Sunday to chat about, because the 2-week sweater challenge just started with Louise. Literally on Friday. We have craft off voting and stuff to resolve. Asa needs to drop a word into chat for you to have for the day, because Lord knows I forgot to look up a word for you before we started this. Oops. And because it's live, I'm on my cell phone with my headphones, because my microphone and headset only works with one program and not the one we're currently using. So.
Because why would computers and software be consistent?
Why?
That sounds too easy.
I still can't figure out how to get my PDF documents to be in dark mode when I open them, since the big kerfuffle when all of my accessibility settings got reset during an update.
Ugh.
Oh, so I can use the internet, but I currently can't read knitting patterns, which is making learning a whole new knitting pattern during a 2-week sweater challenge interesting.
Yeah.
I only know how to do things in hard mode. It's really what it comes down to. I only can do challenges in hard mode.
Hard mode is clearly the best way to do stuff.
Oh my God. Life is ridiculous. I have some sewing. I have some knitting. I have iced tea in a mason jar. Wasn't the beverage I was going to put into the jar today, but I forgot to make ice cubes last night, so I had to switch it up this morning because I don't have a milk frother. I want a milk frother.
They're pretty nice. Milk
I want a
frothers.
milk frother so bad. That's my new thing I really want. Like I really wanted a food processor, and now I own one, so now I really want a milk frother. And a hand whiskey thing. It's an electric whisk, but you hold it with your hand instead of like a stand mixer. I don't want a stand mixer. I had one for years and never really used it. But I do need like some mixing ability. So like I need one of those hand mixers you can pop the
Yeah.
twirly bits out of, right? Like that's what I need. So goals in life.
I make stiff dough in my stand mixer that is almost too much for my stand mixer at times, so a hand mixer would not do it for me.
I need by hand because I want the muscles and I want the strength.
I can't be bothered.
I need by hand. I also generally
and then I have to clean my
don't
counters, and it's just bleh.
Well, your counter should be clean anyway.
Yeah, but then I have to clean up the counter after I've done it.
Okay, fair. I also tend to make things like no knead artisanal dough and Irish soda bread. So like I don't do a lot of kneading.
That's
like
fair.
the most is like when I'm making homemade buns. And it's not that much. It's still a light yeasted dough, right? So like it's not that much kneading. It's like maybe 5 minutes worth. It's
yeah.
nothing.
I could do it if I wanted, but I have a nice machine that does it for me.
Ma'am, I did not put that ball of yarn there for you to knock it over. That's not what that wasn't the point.
Having discussions about when my song that I was singing came out.
Early 2000s, I think.
I have it here on my playlist. Let's Get It Started by the Black Eyed Peas. I don't know exactly when it came out, but this particular version is on the album Now 2000s, which is 2000 to 2005.
So early 2000s.
Yep.
Because I remember hearing it at the bar. So after I was 18-ish. So like 2000 to 2005, when I was actually a bar person. My 18th, 19th year. Slid a little bit into my early 20s, but not as much as 18, 19.
Yeah, I was distinctly still a child at that time. I started high school in 2005. 4?
I graduated high school in 2001.
2009.
Age differences.
We were just a slightly different generation. Very slightly.
Whatever. It's enjoyable watching you panic about getting older. At me.
I don't like it.
You're just doing it at me like I'm gonna care. I'm so much older than you are. Just kind of like,
I'm looking for guidance. You've obviously done this already. Guide me.
Guide me. We now have known each other long enough. You know I don't stress these things.
I know. I'll have to find my guidance somewhere else.
You're going to have to find your panic, pretend you're not getting older from someone else, because I'm comfortable getting older.
Sniffle. Asa's got a word handy for later.
Oh, good. Thank you, Asa. So much to do. All right, I have 4 projects, right?
I have 3? I don't know. I didn't count.
I should go first. I didn't talk about it the last podcast, but this is when I pulled out and started working on because I needed to add an extra ball to my Endless Summer Adventure shawl that I'm making for myself in the DK weight. The 2, sufficient shawl size, not big enough for a Jocelyn shawl. So I'm adding a 3rd ball. It's my pattern, Endless Summer Adventure shawl. So when I'm done, I'll do some updates to have larger versions for everybody. And I'll update my pattern formatting because it's the old formatting. So I am going to work on this while we chat today. I definitely worked on it during Whip Sprints, and I definitely did not talk about it. We talked about Whip Sprints last week.
Oops. Oh, there goes that yarn. Well, that's just down there now.
That's fair. This yarn is some Erin of Fireweed Fiber Co. in her Buttercup DK base. This is her colorway 32. however you say that in French, because this was for her 32nd birthday, which just passed. She will be 33 this year. So there we go.
Nice.
And I shall sit here and work on this, which leaves me with 2 sweaters and a craft off.
Well, I just have 2 sweaters, so
2 sweaters and a craft off. I did do some sewing, but that's like different than other things. Does that make sense? So, like, I have some sewing stuff I could talk about.
you can talk about sewing stuff if you want.
Sure. You still have to go
Oh,
next, because sewing is still not knitting.
okay. Lisa's saying, I remember this song as a kid, but it as an older song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know.
Yes, my favorite was when my niece shows up and goes, "Oh my god, have you heard this thing?" And it's a re-release of something that came out when I was her age. Oh boy.
My niece did that to me with Wannabe by the Spice Girls. Like, do you
Mm-hmm.
know this song? Like, it was this hot new thing. And I'm like, yeah, kid, I was listening to it literally at your age.
Yeah, it's because you're old.
I know. I'm ancient, like the dinosaurs.
You are like the dinosaur.
I'm ancient like the dinosaurs.
It's totally fine.
Lisa was also saying that the Endless Summer Adventure shawl would be a good church shawl.
It would be an amazing church shawl. Now that I stop and think about it, that would be an amazing shawl for church. Absolutely. Because it's big, it's beautiful, it's drapey, but like you put it over like your Sunday dress. Oh, it would look so sharp. Oh, it looks
And
so
it's
sharp.
like fancy, but not too fancy.
Yeah, warm, but not too warm, depending on what weight you do it. Actually, like you do it at fingering weight, so you get like a beautiful drape, right? Like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, it could be an excellent church shawl. I wear very loud colors, so I'm obviously making mine in very loud colors.
So I just
And
gotta do one
classy,
more
like in a
stitch to hold
navy.
this stitch marker.
Like
There we go.
if you did a tonal navy or like a tonal black or something, like how classy would that look? Without actually having to be a lot of work.
Okay, so I'm catching up on chat. Raspberry was saying,
Absolutely.
I'm not doing the sweater challenge, but I'm working on finishing everything in February.
Yeah, why not? Do it up.
We're comparing winters, and it sounds like most people are having a very warm winter. It's a
Well,
weird
it's El
year for
Nino
winter.
this year.
Yeah, it's
It's
just,
El
it's
Nino this year.
very El Nino.
So
More
all
El
the
Nino.
climate scientists are saying this is what our normal will be if we don't get ourselves under control. It's just we're
weird.
just getting a glimpse forward of what winter will be if we don't smarten up. So
It's a
we
weird
shall
one for
see.
sure.
We shall see. What am I doing?
Also
Learning how
says,
to
I have a
knit.
milk frother that I don't use, but it's a little too big to fit in the box for gifting.
That is absolutely fair, Asa. It's one of those weird, like, okay, so, and honestly, like, my birthday is next month, so is Diana's.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what do you want? I'm like, okay. Full disclosure, I'm a klutz. The going blind is not helping with the klutz factor. This is, in fact, making it worse. I broke my Instapot lid.
Oof.
I miss my Instapot because I eat a lot of beans, right? And getting
Yeah.
them dried is just way better economically. And when like some of your primary protein sources are beans, because meat is way too damn expensive. I swore on YouTube I should have done that. I'm gonna stand by my statement. It's too expensive. It's ridiculous. And the whole plant-based proteins are better for us anyway. So I've been trying to eat more vegetarian and vegan food, which means more beans. But I don't want to add to recycling or garbage by getting more canned beans. They're good in a pinch, and they are handy for things.
Mm-hmm.
I get a couple of cans of chickpeas every month because at Aquafaba, bean water is fun to put into vegan foods. Hence the need for a hand mixer, right? To hand mix the Aquafaba.
Right, yeah. You can get egg whitey things.
So I can get egg whitey things, and I can't really have eggs. Well, okay, no, I can eat eggs. They disagree with the rest of me. My face loves putting the eggs in. The rest of me does not enjoy egg.
Right.
So I have to be careful, right? So I'm like, but beans the old-fashioned way, I have gotten lazy since I got my Instapot. I am used to having super well done, garlicky, onion, ready to go beans in like 20 minutes from dried. Where I can put them in with the water and my garlic and my onion and my spices and turn the lid on and make the rest of my dinner, turn around and have white beans that I could then like turn into a soup the next day or like something else in under 30
Yeah.
minutes. And now it's like, oh, boiling water,
Now
and you gotta soak them and you gotta use
gotta
it's like,
soak them
oh
the
my
night
gosh.
before, and yeah, it's a whole thing.
I never, and it's such a thing. I'm like, and I make 3-hour bread. And I'm happy to start a dough rise in the morning and go back to it 3 hours later to cook it off. More than happy. But the idea, I miss my Instapot. And it's a slow cooker and it makes yogurt. And yes, I make plant-based, non-milk-based yogurt. It's like, I just,
How do you do that? What do you use?
coconut milk.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And coconut cream. And lemon juice primarily to make the sour. Like, that's how I make sour cream, is coconut cream. And then I put a tablespoon of lemon juice into it, stir it up really well, and then I leave it to sit on the counter. Because the lemon juice or vinegar, if you've got vinegar, does the souring to the cream, which is what you're doing with your milk creams to make sour cream. I'm just doing the same thing with coconut cream instead.
All right.
Again, because my face loves dairy, but the rest of me, not
Yeah.
it'll handle a little bit, but there's a very definitive line on that one.
Yeah.
I'm like, same with the eggs. So I tried to avoid them because I feel better.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
That's fine. I'm just like, I miss my Instapot. So like, I asked for an Instapot lid and a milk frother for my birthday. I'm turning 41. That's what I want. And an Instapot lid. I don't want a milk frother. And if there's money left over, a hand mixer for the mixies. I have to put Diana's birthday present in the mail. I gotta do that.
I should figure out what your birthday present is and put that in the mail with the other stuff.
Is also a good idea.
Mm.
Since you're mailing me something this week, yes, if you did it this week, then you would be
That would
done.
make a lot of sense.
That would be quite logical. I have no idea. I don't know. If you want to impromptu list, poke me after the live.
Okay.
And I'll just randomly list things. If that works.
All right. Suppose I should talk about a knitting.
Yes, it is your turn.
I have done a couple of rounds on the librarian pullover. I'm so winning the race for the librarian sweater. I mean,
right now, yes, because I'm in the middle of a 2-week sweater challenge, so I'm not working on the librarian for the next 2 weeks.
I'm doing so good, you guys. I've done 2 rounds, and one of those rounds was while we were here doing this. So I figured out the left and right twist because it has a lattice pattern, and it's like it should involve cables but doesn't. It does these weird twisty stitches instead, and I've already decided I don't like the left twist because it breaks the flow.
Oh jeez.
I know. It's gonna be real pretty though. I don't have enough of it done to like really explain how pretty it's gonna be. It's gonna be really pretty, especially with the Tweety. The yarn is so perfect. I'm absolutely in love with this yarn for this project. I'm just going to be mildly sad for every single left twist in this project.
Guys, this is the same woman who cannot do eyelet lace and struggles with center double decreases.
Yes. Yes, I do. Anyway, that's the Librarian Pullover by Skein out of yarn from Dragon Horde. I believe the colorway is Cinnamon Apricot Spice. I have dropped the ball on the floor and I can't get it without making a whole lot of noise, so I'm just not going to.
Okay. She did all that work to knock everything off this side and then she's gone away.
Well, yeah.
Unnecessary mayhem. Did you guys see the
perfectly
Instagram
necessary,
I posted?
Entirely necessary mayhem. All right,
that
that's my
Instagram
first project.
I posted? She was making my red yarn squishier.
That's so cute. I love that reel so much.
I made it a short too. I remember to put it on YouTube this time.
Ooh.
Don't normally remember to do that, but I did this time.
Look at you with your social media.
Yeah, that's about all that's going to happen this week. I have to stop procrastinating, putting reminders into my phone for me to do things. All right. I'm going to take a sip out of my mason jar lemonade. Why, you ask? Because I was going to do a shaken brown sugar oat milk cold foam coffee, which you can do with mason jar ice cubes and ingredients. Forgot to make ice cubes.
Oh, disappoint.
However, also good for making large quantities of lemonade quickly, because you can put the lid on and then shake the sugar into the drink.
Ah, that makes sense.
Well, it's not hard, because you just need, like, to be fair, I sugar it
this.
more than the home style recipe calls for, because I like sweet beverages. So I do 2 tablespoons brown sugar. Then I don't have a fancy coffee machine. Guys, I don't even have a milk frother. I obviously don't have a fancy coffee machine. So I do a teaspoon and a half of instant decaf coffee into a quarter cup of hot water. So I put the instant coffee in first, and then I heat the water up. That goes in, and then I fill it up with ice cubes, and I shake the ever-loving snot out of it, which foams the coffee and the sugar, creating the cold foam, and then I add in the milk and more ice afterwards. And it is tasty. It'd be faster with a milk frother, but it is tasty. Also means I wouldn't have to remember ice cubes, but whatever. It's fun. We had craft off. We had knitting check-in with Louise on Friday. I was going to say Thursday. We've changed it to Friday, guys. Gotta remember these things. My secret crafting for the month was to make progress on a little human sweater for a friend of mine, who, him and his wife, were going to have their 4th baby. The 4th baby has arrived. We showed up about a week ago, as we do, on our own time schedule.
Well, yeah.
And so I absolutely on Monday when I got a cast on that sweater.
They show up when they show up. So
babies show up whenever they show up. Sharp viewers will recognize this yarn, which is so now cute. The body of a Gramp sweater. And I set it up so that it's black into the tan, so that the cuffs and the pockets and the elbow patches can all be in the white cream at the bottom for those little pops of color.
So freaking cute. I love that.
So the body is done, and I'm working on the sleeve decreases on the first sleeve. Not that it'll take me terribly long. But what am I using? I am using the leftover yarn from the Cozy Dream shawl. Yes, the Cozy Dream shawl that I made up, that I crocheted, that big bulky one.
Oh yeah.
In the creams and the black, like, here it is. Because I held 2 strands double. So I still had balls of yarn to use. Balls of yarn. I still have, I'm 4. What did I do? I stacked them right here and then forgot about them for a whole month. Just left them there. You guys can go back and check the podcast episodes out. I still have a whole ball I haven't touched. This is Karen Big Cake. I quite enjoy working in Karen Big Cake. It's a wonderful acrylic yarn. Quite tough. So I have to somehow, during this 2-week sweater challenge, get 2 sleeves and a neckband, which is a shawl collar done. Because I see Dad on next Saturday.
Right.
So we'll see. We'll see. But technically, I have the body of the Gramp Sweater, which is a pattern by Tin Can Knits, all worked up, done.
So freaking cute.
I did the 6-month year size because I don't do newborn anything.
Oh yeah, they'll have tons of adorable newborn stuff.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. And this is their 4th child. They need practical things, not...
Oh, yeah. They've got tons of newborn stuff.
They're fine. this is stuff I knit for fun. Like, I didn't even ask this time. I was talking to Dad a couple months ago. I was like, I'm gonna just knit something, and you're just gonna have to like it. And he's like, Yeah, we're on number 4. That's exactly how it should go at this point. I'm like, You have all the basics. Now it's just fun stuff. So, which means I feel bad. So I'm gonna have to make something for his older brother because he is the youngest of 4 that I'm currently crafting for. And then I'm gonna make 2 divided dice bags for his older sisters who are in their teens. So they both play D&D. So I've got some because I feel bad for the older siblings when the younger ones show up. So I'm gonna make gifts for all 4 kids. So start with the little one, and then we'll work on the next one. Which honestly just might be if Mom really likes this sweater, me asking what next size up the older brother is and making that, doing it again, and
Yeah.
dice bags for the girls. So we shall see, but all 4 kids will get something eventually. A man who josts them, because that's how that works. But there you go. I'm considering this didn't exist on Monday. It's a quick knit, guys.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's a quick knit, so I'm quite happy with that.
Well, I'm gonna tuck that concept away for my friend's tiny human in who'll be 1 in September.
You will have to start shortly and go 3 sizes higher because you were really bad with deadline knitting.
What? What makes you say that?
I'm bad with deadline knitting. I'm bad with deadline knitting. You're worse.
What?
You resemble that remark? I know.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
Substitute my own. Well, I want the kid to be able to wear
quote.
The sweater.
I reject your reality and substitute my own.
Well, mine is I believe in the you that believes in me, so. Both are over.
Why is winding yarn by hand the most difficult thing in the world?
It's not, but because we get used to our swifts and ball winders, it feels difficult.
I don't know, this is rapidly turning into the most difficult thing in the world.
I remember, guys, when she swore up and down she never needed a ball winder because her Nosta pinner was going to be the way she would wind her balls forever and make beautiful cakes out of.
Then I forgot I owned it because I got a ball winder and it was so much better.
I just bought a ball winder.
What is going on? I don't know. It's fine.
I should laugh at you because sometimes I struggle just as hard. Yet here I am laughing.
I understand. I know.
I am that friend that will laugh at you when you fall over. I'm also that friend who will come help you bury the body at 2 a.m. It's just how it goes. Okay. I have a sweater and a craft off.
All right. Well, I guess I could talk about the thing that I'm currently arguing with the yarn for.
Sure, why not?
I'm winding my next ball of yarn for that granny stripe blanket.
Ooh, yeah.
Which, did I remember to stick a progress keeper in after last week? No, I did not. But I finished whatever ball of yarn I was working on, and this is the next ball of yarn, and it's very pretty. This is one of my favorite colors. This is possibly my favorite color so far. It's all blues and purples and pinks.
Okay.
And speckles and things, and I'm very excited to crochet it, and I'm not excited about this winding process. It's being very difficult. Like, needlessly difficult.
Sometimes. I didn't get a chance to work on my blanket all week this week. Now that I sit and think about it, oh my god.
This is turning into a workout. Like, this is becoming way too much effort.
Did I? I don't know,
what is going on? Anyway, yeah, granny stripe blanket. It's, I guess I could hold it up, couldn't I? It's this. It's a throw blanket size. It's just granny shells all the way across, in case anybody's new here and hasn't been seeing this for the past month. I love it so much, and it's all I want to work on, and I can't work on it because I have other things I need to do. Like, wind this ball of yarn.
Now, I mean, I would have wound the ball of yarn before we went live, but I suspect you were probably waking up and putting breakfast in your system.
I woke up and knitted on other things, so I also have not done breakfast yet.
Oh, jeez.
Breakfast is going to be lunch later.
Later.
I'm doing so well at life.
I see this. Adulting skills are just off the charts for you today.
I'm doing great today. Now I'm going to feed myself and go for a walk later. Because it's such a nice day, I want to go on a little hike.
5 minutes before we went live, my cat was yelling at me in the kitchen, so...
Liz says I want to reach into the screen and grab Diana's yarn and straighten it out. I mean, oh my god, you're welcome to do that.
She will pass it right over.
I will. God, this is just getting worse.
Did I work on my... Hang on, let me stick my hand under this precariously stacked chunk of sewing projects. And pull this out. Because we'll know right away if I worked on anything. When I go into here, I'll have loose squares floating around. There are no loose squares floating around.
I have
so
regrets.
I have not worked on this week. That's how we figure that out. Okay.
I have so many regrets right now.
Is it just that you didn't set it up super precisely? Or is it just the random, every once in a while you get a bad game?
I think something was twisted at the beginning and I didn't untwist it properly, and that made it partly worse. And now I'm just cruising on as though nothing's wrong, even though everything's wrong. You know?
In my Christmas project bag I got from Diana, that has kittens.
Kittens.
Kittens. I put 2 balls of DK weight purple yarn. Because right now the sweater challenge is going on between me and Louise from Wildflower Wool. So for the next 3, look at this beautiful purple polka dot inside.
Such a perfect bag. I can't believe that bag even existed.
Neither can I, and I am so stoked I own it. Where was I going with my thought process? Nobody knows. So, 2-week sweater challenge. I was going to make the Tar sweater by Melanie Burke. I had made it once before. I tried making the sweater to my bust measurements because I've always been like upper bust. And then I was like, it's going to be a really drapey fabric, so like I'll try the bust measurement. The answer to that is it doesn't matter if it's supposed to be drapey fabric. I must make to upper bust because if I make it to the bust measurement, it's floppy and adds weight everywhere, which I don't like. It doesn't look slouchy cool. I look frumpy. Not okay. So I had ripped the Tar I originally knit out of the DK DK Barocco vintage DK that I had. And I was like, I'll just do it again as my sweater in February, right? No problem.
Yeah.
Except here we are in February. Here we are on day 3, and I have a Diana-sized swatch.
You're doing so good.
February. Am I making the Tar sweater by Melanie Burke? No. No, I'm not.
Yeah, you got talked into something else.
Started talking because Louise wasn't too sure what she wanted to knit, and she was like, she's going to do a pattern this time instead of her gauge to garment. And I was like, oh, like that's great. So we're throwing out pattern suggestions and stuff. And Vanessa suggested the simple summer tweed top-down V-neck. Pulled it up on my phone, I took a look at it, and went, that's really cute. Classy design, rolled neckline, V-neck, raglan, like super breezy, easy to do, right? And I was like, you know what? I really like that. So, having never made a V-neck sweater before, guys, I've never made a V-neck pullover before.
That's fine.
Here we are.
It's not too hard.
I have a Diana swatch, and I need to cast on today and get working on that. Is my swatch on mark? No, I've got too many stitches. Technically, I need to change the size. I'll be working.
Sherry doesn't like how I'm winding my yarn.
Sherry's gonna come over and fix that for you, is she?
Yeah, very shortly.
I don't want it to, like, I don't want the gauge bigger than this. because this is already quite drapey. Noting I'm using DK weight yarn for an Aran weight pattern. So like I'm fiddling with stuff, right? So I'm gonna match the body count size up to how many stitches I have per inch on my swatch, and that's the size I'll make. But I have been arguing with my computer, which doesn't let me do PDFs in dark mode. And before you ask, most screen readers also don't read PDFs. They just say document screen. Because PDFs are not documents, they are pictures. PDFs are pictures.
Dumb.
Screen readers don't read pictures. They read documents and screens. So, Asa kindly, because it is a free pattern, downloaded and told me what the finished stitch counts were. So all I have to do is argue with my size and making sure I copy out all of my increases correctly, so I do my increases right. And then I can get going. So I've got most of the increases marked. I want to double check that, which is very slow going because the font's very large on a white screen, so I can only look at it for like 2 minutes at a time, and then I have to look at something else for a while. So if I can get this cast on today and walk away from the screen for half a week, I will feel much better. Why are you over there? Better yet, how did you get over there? What even are you on? Ma'am, you would have knocked over yarn to do that. Hi.
Oh.
Hi. Where are you going?
She wants a cuddle.
Yes, we do. So there we go. That's my 2-week sweater. I've got my first check-in is on Friday. Listen, ma'am. Awkward much. We'll see how I do. You need a brush because I got hair in my face now. Get out. So I need to get that cast on today. First check-in is this Friday on Louise's channel, and I need to pretty much be done a body, right? 2 weeks, guys, and I'm already on day 3, and I don't even have a cast on. Where are you going? What even is this?
Oh dear.
I can't pet you if I'm holding you. You're a 2-arm cat. Yeah, you take 2 arms because you're big. Sit easy. You know, the internet might want to see me. Not you. Yeah, the internet might want to see me, not you. I don't know what Diana's doing.
I'm just watching this chaos, and apparently I'm making everybody on the internet angry that I'm winding my yarn this way. I would be making myself angry too, except now that I know I'm irritating everybody else, I'm full of delight. I will just keep irritating everybody by winding my yarn spaghetti.
I'm glad I can entertain everybody with this. This is why I need that baby belly band carrier thing.
You really do.
I really do. But I also really, really want that brush, like hand mitt I can put on that functions like a shampoo brush to like dry shampoo your cats. Because she sheds, right?
Mm-hmm. As cats do.
And I need extra help dealing with the fur.
Oh, also says, missed a lot, my sister called.
I hope everybody enjoyed that nonsense.
I'm enjoying your nonsense.
Personal space. We've discussed this.
The internet likes your cat. The internet does not like my yarn. I suppose I should talk about a thing, hey?
You're up.
I should put down this yarn spaghetti.
I just have craft off to talk about now.
Okay. I talked about that. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about the cursed Mr. Diana sweater.
It's not cursed.
I don't know.
You didn't gauge swatch and you didn't read your directions correctly.
I'm cursed to not pay attention to it properly. So the color work is very slowly happening as I, get partway around and go, wait, this isn't lining up the way it's supposed to, and going back a few stitches.
It's just continuing to be an issue for you.
I need to stop trying to like watch TV and do this. I need to like put on music or something.
Podcasts, man. Podcasts.
Well, I'm not even watching is the thing too, because it's just like Angel, right? So like I don't really need to watch it.
No. Can I put you down?
So
You're
it's slow
heavy
going,
and
but it's
it's
happening.
warm.
I know. So this is the Steinkrieger. The yarn is Cascade Eco Plus, and I'm a few rounds into the chart, and it's happening slowly. But I have the right number of stitches now, and I have the right gauge, and it's looking good.
Okay.
It just takes a couple extra brain cells because the chart's meant for 3 colors, and I'm doing it in 2 colors.
Guys, it's a beautifully simple chart.
It is. I require like 0.75 more brain cells than I apparently currently have. Anyway, it's happening.
Well,
slowly.
What you can't hear is her purring. She's doing that broken purr she does when she's very content. Which I know you've heard in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy cat.
There's no way the microphone's going to pick that up.
No,
I have to put you down so we can talk about my craft off knitting. It's time for you to go away. No
also
farts
wants to know,
given here.
What's wrong with my yarn other than the mess it's in? It's just the mess. Everybody hates that my yarn is a mess and they want to untangle it for me. And I would happily let them if, teleportation was a thing. I made the mistake of trying to wind yarn
away
while we do this.
When people ask why I think you're my child, this is it right here. This is the proof. This is why you're a big fat baby.
Also would also like you to know that she's having marzipan? Yes.
Yes. Oh my god, yes. I ate all 12 of those chocolate bars and I will happily take more. So good.
If I ever go to Norway, I'm going to bring home a case of those chocolate bars because they were good.
Oh my god, they're so good. And I mean, to be fair, like I ate a lot during Christmas and we tried a whole bunch of different baked goods. And my favorite things were the marzipan bars I got from Pasa and this homemade almond joy bars Mom and my niece made. I have no idea how much I wish I had enough spare grocery money left over to buy dark chocolate chips, a can of sweetened condensed milk, and 2 bags of shredded coconut. Oh my god. This is so easy to make. It's so good.
Also says I will put some more in the box.
Heck yeah. You have to go away. I gotta talk about craft off.
Craft off.
Or sewing projects. What do we want to do
let's do sewing projects. Let's do that. We'll talk about craft off after.
I still have to put you down. And snort. Okay, everybody say goodbye, Phaedra. She's gonna go away now.
Bye, Phaedra.
Bye, Phaedra. Bye, Phaedra. Yeah, she's not even getting ready to be dropped. Ugh. No! Down. I swear. Okay. I've been hand sewing some skirts together, and you can see from my pile progress. So I got one side seam hand sewn, and I'm folded and pinned, ready for my next side seam. Then she needs an iron. Why do you iron? You can skip ironing, should you desire. It will make your stuff look like you made it at home. I like very crisp, clean lines, and I like my stuff to look like I didn't make it at home. And all that requires is for me to iron it, so I iron. It's just a finishing thing that you really need to do. Just do your ironing. I know it's not fun, just do it. So, side seam, and then that's ready for iron, which is why it's at the top of the pile, because that's what I need to do next. And if anybody asks, I hand stitch while I'm watching YouTube and Netflix and stuff. Like while I'm watching TV programs, what I do is I work on my hand stitching. Or roundy knitting. That's it. I've got this bad boy. Needs an iron, but it has got the waistband pinned in place. Ooh, I just poked myself. So the waistband is pinned. So once I'm ironed and my waistband is inserted, correct? Like this is, I'm making elastic did. I don't know how to English
Elasticized?
that correctly. That's the word I'm looking for. Waistband half circle skirts, just to be basic, pull on everyday go skirts in different lengths. So I went and I made this as easy as possible for myself. So I took my fabric and I folded it in half and I laid it out on the floor. And then literally using the widest measurement on my person, the widest part of my hip space, I drew a line as far down from the corner of the fabric as I needed to get to have that measurement. And then I kept going down and I cut the bottom end of the circle, bottom end of the skirt, wherever the fabric ended. And then I made 2 straight lines that I sewed together to make a waistband. There's no, guys, it's so easy to do. It's so easy
I
to do.
did it! I
It's
wound the ball
just
of yarn.
you're good?
I'm
It's
good.
just a half circle skirt, half circle, a quarter circle, probably a quarter circle. I'm not too strict on the measurements. I literally just go, this is the widest part of my hips, so I can stick an elastic in this waistband and get it on and off myself. That's important. That's why it's the widest part of your lower body, because you need to get it on.
Yeah.
You need to get it on. And this is a woven fabric, so there's no give on the fabric. And then its length for each one of these was simply the longest I could go. Otherwise, it's 2 side seams and a waistband. And once I iron this, which I'm going to do after I sew my side seam, finish sewing, I want to put this on once I've leveled the hemline, as I carry more weight on my front than I do on my back. Specifically speaking, my belly is bigger than my butt. So that affects how your hem falls. So I'm going to pin the hem so it's straight. I'm going to put it on and look at it. And if it looks even, we're good. Because if it looks even to me, it'll look even to you.
Yep.
Unless you really want to get next to me and measure from the ground to the skirt, in which case you better have bought me dinner first. And this guy is pinned and ready for his side seams. So I've got 3 of them that I've been slowly puttering away with. Grip them back up here. And they are literally what I work on while I'm watching YouTube videos. I just work on my hands, sorry. So I take my happy ergonomic pillow, put it on my lap, put my feet up, pin my fabric into the pillow, and then I just hand stitch.
Nice.
It's what I've been doing while I sit in front of the computer, or while I'm waiting for a podcast to render for the week. I just sit and do a section of backstitch. So not a ton of progress, but a little bit of progress on everything. And also reminded me what I'm doing with my fabric piles. So I can talk about my fabric piles if everyone's interested in upcoming bonus content.
Fabric piles.
Which I assume everybody is. Where'd you go?
Catching up on chat, also saying I can send you pure marzipan so you can have it pure or dip it in chocolate.
I like the chocolate dipped stuff. Either or. I like both. So.
Lisa said, I made granola last night and I feel so dumb for not realizing it was that easy. It is so easy, and homemade granola, so good. Also has
so
like
good,
half the sugar and still tastes just as good.
What I like about homemade granola is it's corn free.
Also that. I need to make some granola.
I'm fine with the sugar content. I'm not a sugar wuss. However, corn free is important for me. Having said that, my favorite granola on the planet is some stuff that I buy from a local group here. They're like a couple of buddies. They share a house together, and they make amazing granola. I buy it by the bags, several at a time, whenever I catch them at a farmer's market, because oh my god, it's so good. Yeah, I could make it. That's not the point. I'm supporting local, so I don't feel bad.
Mhm.
In that bonus, hey, we need ideas for bonus content we were talking about the other week.
Yeah.
Was it the other week?
I don't
Somebody
remember.
said sewing videos. Well, I'm not going to do tutorials because there are amazing tutorials out there, but I can do like project recap video things. Like I could talk about what I'm making. I can do some links for tutorials for people who will actually walk you through the process, and I can walk you through making of things. Obviously, not for the skirts I'm currently working on because I did not film any of them because I wasn't, it wasn't a thing in my brain at the time. But I have 2 piles of fabric,
Nice.
so I will walk everybody through these projects as I make them. That way, we have some bonus content, and it's me sewing. I'm going to make some split side 18th century petticoats, which are a very if I'm saying the half circle skirt is easy, this is incredibly easier. That's not good English. That's bad English. This is even easier than that project is. Because this one requires no measurements, technically, to start. And you could do it all without maths. I mean, I'm going to do a little bit of math, but you don't have to do maths. I'm going to make a nice brown one, and I'm going to make a nice floaty white one with the pinstripe. This one will be a little more complicated. That's simply because of the width of the fabric I'm working with. So let's talk about the easier one first.
Cherry
Now,
says, what
you
I've
can
learned from this
literally
sewing
look up
lesson is that Jocelyn will let you do anything you want for a free meal.
roughly, yeah. Ask Diana. I'm pretty easy that way. I am constantly looking to not have to cook something because I cook so much from scratch and by hand. Anytime I cannot have to cook, I take advantage of it because I'm just never guaranteed another opportunity where it isn't 2 to 3 hours a day cooking. Because there are no cereals, there's no dairy based milks, I can't do things with eggs, so it's not like I can run out to the bakery. Like, there is a very limited amount of food outside the home that I can just order and eat, and I get very excited anytime I don't have to cook because it means I'm freeing up an hour, 2 hours of my day. That's not a small chunk of time, that's a
No.
big chunk of time. Like, it's a lot. So I get very excited. The mysterious Mr. B does it a fair bit because he knows how much work I put into cooking all the time. So he offers to buy food when we game often because he knows how much extra work it is in a day for me to do things. So the width of my brown fabric, there's no stretch, guys. Like, I'm pulling on this, it's woven. There's no give. It is about my arm span. This is an excellent width for me for a split, side split 18th century petticoat design. I'm going to make this with a wide belt in the front so it could have a nice pretty bow in the back. So I think that'll look really cute.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously small ties in the front because I don't want to add any extra weight to the front. So I will take this and I will pleat it down because I prefer pleats over gathers to be my waist measurement. And then after that, it's literally adding ties in the waistband because you tie this skirt on. So you do not need buttons, you don't need a button placket, you don't need a zipper. You can put pockets if you want. I probably won't, but you can. And all I have to do is sew a side seam, sew another side seam. I will obviously do my finish sewing, which is my hemming, in this case, at the top where it'll be open.
Crochet hook I need fell on the floor back there.
Well done. I'll sew that down as well too. But this is definitely easy. And while you can math out your pleats, I generally don't math out my pleats. I like to
pleat
fiddle,
by feel?
so I pleat by feel. And when it looks even and it looks good, once that's done, I will put it on and make sure it looks good, and then I go with it and it's done. So I'm going to talk about this and the adaptations for the white stripes and walk everybody through that as a project, not as a tutorial. But I will include some links to people who walk you through the math and walk you through the other process. The only questions I have left to ask myself is, do I want this to be floor length? Because this is long enough to go from my waist to the floor. Like, do I want this a full skirt, or do I want this T length? Do I want that midi length? Which is like bottom of your upper calf. So you just got that bottom part of leg showing. That's what I have to decide. It's my only decision left now. Now that also reminded me what I was doing with this. Also, my God, this is staticky. Whoa. What the?
I'm going to say T length. That's my vote.
This one, I have enough fabric. I might gather this one and make it one of those hobbit skirts.
Ooh. Oh, that'd be cute.
For the summer. With a little apron. It's got a name. Pinafore. Pinafore. That's
oh, yeah.
So I might do that. This is be stupid cute.
Oh, for anybody who doesn't know what T length is, how long is T length?
So you've got knee length is your knees. T length is about halfway between your knees and your ankles. Ankle length is full length. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does that help everybody with body measurements? Without actually giving out measurements, because bodies are all different.
Why is it called T length? Like, there's no T down there. Do you wear it? Do you wear lengths like that?
It's called T length. It's called midi length. It's had different names. T length, midi length, they all mean the same thing. Maxi means floor length. Like, maxi means to your ankles. Like, it's just a different way of saying. About halfway to 2/3 of the way between your knees to the floor. Really is really all that means. The big thing is, I think with the brown one, I'm definitely going to do like a wide 2-inch waistband detail on my front half and have that as my ties for my front, so I can I can tie it in the back into a nice bow. Because won't that look really cute?
Yes.
That looks so cute. But I'll be using bias tape or twill tape or a smaller tie tape for the back, because technically with the split skirt you have 2 sets of ties, one on the front of your skirt and one on the back of your skirt. You step into it and then you tie your back on. So I will do my back ties very small, and I will double their length so I can loop them around the front and tie them in the back again to hide any bulk that it might add. And then on my front I'll have a nice wide band that I could do the belt with. This is just one of those days for you, isn't it? It's a cat day. I don't like cat
all up
days.
in the everything.
Get everything done. All up in the everything today. So that's what I'm thinking. It's just the length I have to decide on. And I mean, I got to decide now, because if I'm going to do ankle length, then I definitely don't have enough fabric for pockets. But if I do like a midi length, then I could do pockets. I have nothing against pockets. They're in some of my stuff. They're not in other parts of my stuff. Like a pocket in a non-sturdy fabric never happens. I do not put pockets in my knitwear. I do not put pockets in my stuff that's made out of jersey knits and stuff, because it stretches and then it doesn't look good. But in my woven fabrics, stuff that without the stretch, I tend to put pockets in. It's not consistent.
I will extra vote T-length then for the ability for pockets.
Okay.
Because pockets are
Sometimes
great.
I don't do pockets because I don't want to bother to sew pockets. And I don't think that they're the end-all be-all of life.
I hate carrying bags, so I love pockets.
I'm fine carrying a bag.
I hate carrying bags.
Doesn't bother me. I'm okay with bags. Not an issue for me, so.
Like, unless I have enough stuff to warrant a backpack, I don't want a bag.
Oh, I carry purses, I carry totes, I carry backpacks, all sorts of things. Also, doesn't bother me the slightest.
Backpack or pockets, there is no in between.
You have that silly vest holster thing. You don't need pockets.
Well, those are just attachable pockets.
Yes. I note I'm taking this advice from a woman who can't be bothered to learn how to sew, so no. I know, I take her votes with a grain of salt. She's not the one doing the work.
I can sew vicariously.
So that's a decision I have to make. And I have to be sure before I cut the white fabric with the blue stripes that that's what I want to do. Because I could do a more modern style, like summer dress with it, but it is sheer fabric. So there will be a lining layer. So then I'm already like adding extra weight and stuff to it. But if I do like the Hobbit style or a pinafore, I can just have a slip underneath and it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I don't know. I gotta make some decisions still. But yes, I'm going to record the whole process. And bonus content wise, I may give Diana all the words, add the video in a finished format, and get her to do voiceover, which I think would be delightful.
I'm sorry, I'm voicing over what topic that I don't know anything about?
The sewing montages. I think I'm going to get you to voice over the sewing montage.
Do I get notes, or am I free to make up whatever I think sounds good?
This is the problem. Do we do notes, or do we do an abridged Diana vicariously sews me Jocelyn montage?
I'll do it. I'll just, like, make something up, and it won't be accurate in the slightest.
I know, but it would be so funny. I'll decide that later, too.
And now we're sewing this thing together using I don't know, some kind of stitch. It's different than the other stitch, but, like, I guess it's good for this purpose.
I feel like that could be quite relaxing to watch. No?
Diana ASMR sewing thing. Also, hi, Maritz's Yarn and Crafts. I'm sorry I missed your message earlier.
I think that'd be quite good.
Chat was saying about tea length, it was for wearing in the afternoon to go to tea, and then if there was like dancing after and stuff, whereas full length was for evening wear.
Yeah. It's just a different way to say midi. It's just a different way to say midi length. Same way as Laura length is also maxi. It's just a different way to say the same thing.
Yep. I was just wondering about the etymology of tea. Why is it tea?
Oh.
Because you wear it to tea.
Yeah, which would be an afternoon event.
It makes sense.
If you don't want me to bug you, don't sit within arm's reach. All right, sewing's done. Craft off. How much sewing will I get done this week? I don't know, guys. It just depends on the week. And the light, really, because I need good daylight to sew by.
And it's also the 2-week sweater challenge, so if no sewing happens, I feel like that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's also a thing, guys. And I'm 3 days in and I'm not casted on, so.
All right, shall we recap last month's craft off?
Mm-hmm. Let's.
So I was doing spinning. I was doing the purple and yellow fluff from Fireweed Fiber Co. on the drop spindle.
You were.
2, 3, 4. Sorry, I'm on the edge.
I believe in you.
Pull out a finish. You believe in me?
I do.
Okay, well that faith is incredibly misplaced, because, Are we still attached? That faith is incredibly misplaced, because I still have all of that. So, yeah. I am 0 for 1 on craft off this year.
Oh, God. Well, I said I wanted to make progress on the quilt crochet blanket, which has been a long-term whip. It may, in fact, be my oldest whip at this point. And I got the last of my pre-made squares sewn together. So I've made one of my center squares. So all of my gray beige, all of my blue-gray squares, they're all sewn together. So I need my
Nice.
beigey corners and my outside squares. Now I made a bunch of outside framing squares, and I do have a couple of finished dudes, but this was the last of my loose squares floating around in my bag. So then I started putting them together. So I got 2 squares sewn together with some ends woven in. I'm not fully finished with my ends yet, but you can see where I started to attach squares, where they need to go, and my middle section. So now you can see the framing in the middle, where I've got a green square at the top and a green square at the bottom here.
Okay.
So now I need
I
to
see.
continue to sew these together. Slowly but surely. Hand sewing takes a while for these things.
Yeah.
As you can see, you start by sewing your flaps together like it's a freaking, not corset. What came before the corset?
Stays.
Thank you, stays. So I've started the process of sewing flaps on, and then once the flaps are sewn on, I will sew the flaps together and closed as I sew the next square on. So that should be interesting. I'm going to be 3 squares wide. So I'm going to have 1 more square wide. And then I'm going to go up as many squares as I can. So we will be a good, probably what would be considered an extra large couch throw. Well, I thought 2 squares at first, right? So then I did the super scientific test. I laid down on bed and draped it over myself.
Yeah.
And went,
good science.
technically two squares work, but like just. So you're not going to get that cozy couch blanket snuggle vibes. You're going to get that if you move on the couch, you've exposed a part of yourself cold air vibe. Which defeats
No,
the purpose
we want
of
to
a
be
couch
cozier.
throw. We need cozier. So I was like, so I had to commit to 3 squares. And there's a lot of ends to weave in because when I was making these squares, I didn't do weaving in my ends as I went. So I'm still finding ends and weaving them in as I go. So
oh dear.
a good chunk of my month was just end weaving in.
That's not the
because
fun part.
That was a future Jocelyn problem, and we're at future Jocelyn stage, and it's still a problem. So I did make some progress.
Itself in the meantime?
It did not. I didn't sew as many squares together as I wanted to. I have 6, 7. I either have 6 or 7 completed initial pattern sections, and I've got 2 at the stage where they need beige corners, and I have enough green to do the whole blanket already made up, and I have got 2/3 of the white squares already made up. So like a good chunk of the creation process is done. We're just at assembly stage. So once the 2-week sweater challenge is done, I'm probably going to pick this up and try to get a couple more. Like I'm going to try to get the bottom row of 3 done this month. Because then if I can do the next row up next month and the next row up next month, then this will be ready to go for fall.
Nice.
Which should be lovely. Noting, guys, I don't have a couch, I have chairs. So this is decorative or for me to sleep under on my bed when I take afternoon naps.
It's going to be great. I'm very excited to see it.
Progress has been made, which was the point. So technically, I'm fine for January. Though really, I would have loved to have had it finished. I knew that was a bit of a pipe dream.
Well.
I knew it was a bit of a pipe dream.
You said progress and you got progress, so you win this month's craft off.
I do. I do.
1 point for you.
Imaginary points.
one craft off point for you.
Yep. The points are made up and they don't matter. Sure, bragging rights. I'll take bragging rights.
Yeah, one point of bragging rights.
I am 1 of 12 for the year on bragging rights.
Okay, let me open up the craft off for this month.
Yeah. I think Pedro knocked off balls of yarn. Nope, she managed to fit herself into a space she should not have fit into. Oh, of course she did.
Cats are a liquid, or cats are a fluid. They'll fill the container that they're put in, even if they don't. It seems like they shouldn't. All right. So for this month, people were voting between the red cardigan and the Northern Radiance shawl.
Yeah.
And there was a very clear winner. We would almost universally like to see the red cardigan, with like 78% of the votes. I didn't even have to vote. It was a very clear winner, but there's also a me vote in there.
I'm going to put the Holst and the gray yarn away for now. So we'll say later to these guys. And I will not work on that this month. And we'll say hello to this again. So it's my first. I need to do work this month, guys. And it's a bit of a tight month. That's why I have you voting on work projects. So this is the front panel to a crochet design that I'm making. It's going to be a drop shoulder. That word is so hard to say. Relax crochet cardigan in the style that I like to make from Hey Crochet with Carrie. So it's the same sort of garment build. Put a drop down in pieces sewn crochet cardigan is made.
Bunch of rectangles sewn together, basically.
Yeah. That's the techniques used to do it together. So I'm doing one in red. As red. I'm using the Pound of Love that I also used to make a shawl just recently. The Tea House wrap, which was the crochet version of the coffee shop shawl that I have that I love so much.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I am slowly making what is technically my 4th red cardigan. I really like red
you don't have a favorite color.
Can you tell? Not at all. Not at all. Because if you think about it, I have the Moonbow cardigan. I have the Habanero cardigan. I have the Tribeca trench. And I have this one, which has no name. They're all red. They're all red.
So they are. Ah, look at that.
They're all red. It's kind of like I like the color red.
Almost, yeah.
Okay. So here's my first front panel. So I need to get my back. I need to make progress. So if I have the body of this cardigan crocheted and written out, I will be happy at the end of the month. Ideally, stretch goal, FO. But primary goal, second front panel and a back panel. Because again, 2-week sweater challenge. So we'll see how I do.
Yeah.
But there you go. I got the hook set aside. Like I even got the start of my ribbing. Like I got the bottom edge of my hem going on with my crochet hook shoved in here. So we shall see. We shall see. So I kicked the camera. All right, guys. Hooked you with my foot. I apologize. How about you? How'd your voting go? I voted as Northern Knits Podcast with my name, my initials, and brackets, but I voted.
So the votes were perfectly evenly split on Instagram. So by 2 votes over on YouTube, with 55% of the vote, I will be doing the cocoon cardigan out of. Oh, can I reach it? I have a full one of these Karen anniversary cakes, stripey, and I have most of a second one as well. So I will be making a cocoon cardigan. I thought about making a hexagon cardigan, but I made the hexagon cardigan out of the speckly version of these colors, so I think I'll do just a regular cocoon cardigan.
Okay. Guys, I want to work out of the anniversary Karen cakes at some point so bad.
They're nice. This is it's a whole kilogram of yarn.
How cool is that?
It's pretty great.
One of these days,
pretty great.
One of these days, I will be able to get a hold of some Karen Cake anniversary balls in the color I want. In something epic.
What colorway is this? I want to say it's like cinnamon spice or something. That might have been the dots one.
Might have been
Sticks
the
and
dots one.
stones.
Okay.
Which is the
okay.
It's the one that comes in stripes versus the exact same colors that came in speckles.
A cocoon cardigan goes by real fast, and that's a bulky, isn't it?
It is.
So what hook size are they recommending?
Oh, I don't remember. What?
Good question.
What do
I'm
you
glad
say?
I asked
What do you say? What do you? You're upside down. This is saying 8mm.
8mm.
This is a super bulky. Apparently, it's a weight 6.
You could do that on a 10 if you wanted something with more drape.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm thinking? The movie night cocoon cardigan.
Movie night?
Yeah, there's one where it's the cocoon cardigan and it does the cocoon shape, but then it does a crocheted ribbed longer sleeve at a neckband spacing, and it just with like skinny jeans or it looks so good. It just looks so good. It would not look good on me. It's the wrong shaping and style for me, but oh man.
I'm also thinking about a hood because I've got most of a second ball as well, so I could do something that's like huge and drapey with a huge and drapey hood.
There was that one that Susanna shared with me. It was on a bulky, like your bulky size, and it was a hooded one. I will try to remember to go find it for you after the podcast.
Okay.
Because that's also crocheted, and I think it might be by from Hey Crochet with Carrie.
Could be.
Who we both fell in love, pattern wise. So
I'm gonna make a big granny square until I feel like it's big enough, and add a hood and some sleeve cuffs and call it a day. Something super simple and very satisfying.
All right. Do you have a reasonable goal and a stretch goal?
Reasonable
crochet
goal
on super bulky. A reasonable goal should be an FO.
Reasonable. It feels like a finish is a reasonable goal, but like the body done and sewn together is technically done. Okay. So there's my reasonable goal. Stretch goal. It has edges and cuffs and a hood.
Okay.
That's the plan.
On a super bulky.
It should just sort of happen. Yeah.
It really should.
I mean, I've wound a ball and crocheted a line of this like in 20 minutes. Well, not more than that.
That's
but
just like on a 6mm. I mean, you could do an 8mm and get a beautiful drapey version, and it goes even faster.
Yeah, well, the ball band says 8mm, so I'll start with that, and if after a few rounds I don't like it, I can go bigger or smaller.
Absolutely. Oh, this looks so good. Okay. Oh, beautiful. All right, and we have our goal, which is good. Good.
Yeah. Oh, also, I'm gonna need that word shortly.
You are, because we are pretty much at time. We are at time for that. There's nothing to show this week because it was rest week.
Oh yes, for the MCAL, yeah.
Yeah. Tomorrow,
enjoy the rest week.
Goes out. So that's happening tomorrow. I have it prepped and ready to go. So I need to upload it tonight. So tomorrow I just have to process the update before noon tomorrow. So we are on to the last 2 clues. We're so close to done.
We're in the home stretch. I'm so excited.
It'll be lovely. So.
Ross is demanding a purple Triceratops. Yeah.
As she should. I've been working on updating the primary PDF document as each clue goes out. So the week after the final clue, because the final clue goes out on the 12th of February, I will update the pattern one last time. So if you don't want to function by clues, you can function by one primary document. And then the week after that, the end of February, the pattern will move to paid. So please do not forget to do your updates. Even if you are behind on clues, do not forget your updates, because I have no idea what moving it from unpaid to paid is going to do to Ravelry downloads. No idea.
Yeah, it's
And I
been
have
weird so
no
far.
control
Does
over.
not
I have
behave the way I would
no
expect it to.
no control over what they've decided to do. I don't have that kind of power. All I can do is warn you guys in advance. Please, 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 please do not forget your uploads. You have to go to the library to get them because it's a free pattern. It won't let me update without putting a message in that nobody sees. So that's fine. I do it, but it does not
Raph
send them
does
to
some
your emails because
stuff
it's a free
in
pattern.
that it's really not the way I would expect it to work. But sure, fine. I guess that is a way for it to work.
I didn't make it, I didn't design it, and it wasn't designed for accessibility in mind anyway, so I don't care. Oh, so that's it. Otherwise, yeah, we're at Patreon, some things, so it is time for your word.
My word I have been given is Wonderland.
That works. I'm gonna
If you would like to financially support these shenanigans, you may do so at patreon.com/northernknitspodcast. Any level of support gets you access to our patron-only Discord server, where we are frequently talking about things. Where'd the rest of that sentence go? Wow.
Flew right under your
That
head.
sentence, leapt out the window and ran away. We talk about things on the Discord. It is a wonderland of enablement and encouragement.
Lovely.
Is enablement a word?
No idea. It is now.
It is now. Okay. Yeah, we talk about all the stuff and post many pattern links and stuff about yarn and pets and food, and it's a good time. You should come join us.
I agree. As always, we super understand budgets. They're a real life thing. If you can't financially support us, liking, subscribing, and commenting here on YouTube and other social media platforms is a great way to interact and show us what you're working on. All of the lists for different things, memberships for YouTube, Patreon levels are all available in their respective places. Let's speak English today, shall we? Oh my word.
English is overrated.
Admin wise, let's get through all the deets. We have an upcoming Patreon knit in this coming second last Saturday of the month. I don't remember the dates.
I want to say 17th. Is that accurate? Let's find out.
I write the program
Yes.
schedule. I still don't remember the dates.
17th.
Okay. That's great. Everybody who is a Patreon member who is $5 or more a month will get an open Discord thread we all hop into in video chat for several hours on Saturday. It is a great knitting experience. We get to chill and have knit club in our own house with our own pajamas and our own snacks. It's kind of nice. You don't have to go anywhere, and you get to participate and hang out with friends. We do love it.
It's a good time.
It is one of the highlights of the month for me. It's always such a glorified mess, and it's so good. So good. I love it so much. Last Saturday of the month is Whip Sprints, as always, here on YouTube. Otherwise, the librarian lit along continues with everyone making much better progress than me and Diana.
Yeah. Here we go, failing at our own little long.
We've done this before. We'll do it again. I've arbitrarily decided I'd like to be done the sweater, which is at a cast on edge, by March the 19th, in time for the spring equinox craft along.
It's like a full month away. It's fine.
Our seasonal crafting with us schedule gets up and running next month. We invite everybody to pick a spring themed item to work on over the course of the next couple of months. We'll get started on the 19th of March. There will be a cast on party. Whatever spring means to you, it's no prizes. We're just here to help encourage each other to craft and enjoy the season that we're in. So that's going on.
Yep.
The podcast anniversary is currently going on, and that is in the form of the Choose Your Own Adventure MCAL. That officially wraps up with the last clue dropping on the 12th of February. Then about a week or 2 weeks later, possibly 2 weeks later, we'll just see how everyone's doing. We'll do the reveal of what the shawls look like. And then from there, we're done. Thank heavens. I am currently in the middle of a 2-week sweater challenge with Louise. So from the 2nd of February to the 16th of February, I am trying to make an entire sweater from scratch. Why? Because like 3 or 4 years ago, me and Louise thought this was a good idea, and we're still doing it.
One time
We're
somebody had
still
this
doing it.
idea, and then years later we're still doing it. I think that covers this podcast as well.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. So that's going on. You can find me on Louise's channel every Friday till the 16th as we do check-ins and see how we're doing. There's like 8 or like 11 people who have joined us this year. So stoked. I'm so stoked. So good. What's the worst that'll happen? You'll be closer to a finish of a sweater than you were at the start.
Yeah.
Still pretty darn good.
That's not
so
how you do double
I'm happy to be
crochet.
doing that. Me and Louise absolutely got talked into entirely different sweaters than what we were thinking when we started the podcast. So that happened. And for the first time, we're making the same sweater. We've never made the same sweater.
That's going to be really fun to see how you guys do.
It's so interesting. I'm so excited. All right. Otherwise, I think that's all the admin stuff. I think that's all the admin stuff I've got.
Alice bragging that she started the Raglan decreases on the librarian.
Could you please? Yes, we know you're better.
And the sweater challenge has a thread in the NKP Ravelry group.
Oh, yes. I opened up a thread in the Ravelry group for people if they wanted to go there, because I know not everyone's on Facebook or Instagram necessarily. So hopefully between the 3 of those, because like there's the Friday night or the Fiber Friends Friday Night Knit In group on Facebook. Then obviously Louise's YouTube channel and our YouTube channel. And then obviously Louise's Instagram and our Instagram. And then with the Ravelry up, then hopefully we're able to catch enough people so everyone can participate at a level that works for them. Here's hoping, right?
So social. Such media. Wow.
So social. Much media. But I think...
what is Louise's Ravelry?
Wildflower Wool.
Just like the YouTube channel?
Just like the YouTube channel.
Okay.
Which works great. Makes it easier for me to remember. Brand consistency. It helps my poor brain.
Yeah, brand consistency.
Yeah, brand consistency. Is that it? I think that's it for admin.
I think that's it for admin.
Okay, good. Then the admin's done, which makes me feel better. Which just leaves my TED Talk.
Yes, the TED Talk. What's the topic? What's the history talk?
The history talk? The question given to me, the prompt, the cue, the hey, you should go look at this, was the Viking settlement in Greenland. I don't know what you're thinking. Jocelyn, that is delightfully specific. It's a specific topic for a specific range of a specific amount of people. Shouldn't be a problem, right? People underestimate my ability to go sideways.
All right, how far sideways did you go this time?
So I started with Vikings, Greenland settlement. Seems easy enough. Let's stay focused, because you get distracted. Vikings are pretty cool, right? Like I could go far and wild and wonderful, wacky places. So you start with some primary source documentation. Good idea. Sagas, stories, the folklore of, if you will, of the Greenland settlement, which then led me into the unsolved mysteries and all of the propaganda that came out of the Greenland settlement in following centuries after the Greenland settlement's existence. Cool. So I kind of wandered that way. And then I wandered into what does it mean to be a Viking, which then led me to genetic testing and theory and history and DNA sampling. Then I went, okay, you're way off track. I pulled myself back and I went back to the sagas. And then I ended up comparing sagas to archaeological evidence, of which there are little snippets, which makes the sagas interesting. And then I was like, okay, this is not working either. And then I pulled back and I was like, okay, let's debunk some of the stuff that isn't accurate about Vikings, which then led me down an entirely different rabbit hole. None of this has to do with the Greenland settlement, but on what we think a Viking is, which isn't what a Viking is.
Okay, I'm starting to see
I
the, like, 16 rabbit holes here.
add to it, Vikings are popular. Vikings are like pirates. We love talking about them. So I did something like 14 hours of podcast listening just about Vikings. Vikings in Northern Europe, Vikings in Britain, Vikings in Canada, Vikings in Spain, Vikings in the archipelago, Vikings in Baghdad, Vikings because they got around. Like they were travelers. They were immensely well, I don't want to say educated, well known sea voyagers. Like they knew their stuff when it came to sea travel. They were very good at it, which makes sense given how their economy is set up and what we understand of it. Then it's like, cool. What is a Viking? Vikings are not Vikings. Vikings are Scandinavians. Legit. Just they're
Okay.
Scandinavian. They're historic Scandinavians. What is a Scandinavian? Anybody that comes out of Denmark, Norway, technically Iceland, Greenland, because of resettlement. And then you're basically looking at Northern Europe, not Germany. Really, not technically really Germany, but Germany wasn't Germany. Like, guys, you have to understand that nationality and race is an entirely made up concept. It's not real. It's not real. It's not stable. And the moment someone says we've always been here, it's a lie. Just so long as you grasp that, you'll understand history fine. Because Denmark in
We've
the Middle
always been
Ages
here
wasn't
as,
really
like,
Denmark.
3 or 4 generations.
We really struggle with the ideology that it's fluid. It's not a solid concept. Like we don't do well with it. We don't do well with that concept at all. So, okay, cool. Bare bones. The Vikings were a Scandinavian people that traveled really well. Primarily, they exported and imported because they grew up with a lot of trees. Not so much in a lot of other things, but a lot of trees, not really super farmable land. You could farm, but it wasn't one of the primary things. You sort of did, it was your side hustle. Tended to go towards more stock raising, so cattle, beef, pigs, goats, than necessarily turnips. Like in some places you farm better, in some places you raise cattle better, in some places you fish better. It just depends on your geographic location, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were not all blue-eyed blondes. They were not all tall. They were not all warriors. They were not all debunking myths left, right, and center. A lot of what you know is wrong. Just go with a lot of what you know is wrong because it's wrong. A lot of
Do
the
the
stuff that we
islands they
pull from,
controlled count as well?
yes, but it varies because they were consummate settlers, which means they didn't go to a place and make a Chinatown. When they moved somewhere, they became a part of the culture. So yes, but with a caveat, if that makes sense. So the Vikings that went to Britain became Britons because they moved and married into that society and brought their cultural aspects in with them. So if there was another group of people already there, you get mixing because they were very good at it. It was a part of what they did.
They didn't come in and take
If there
over,
was,
they came in and joined.
yeah, they acclimated. They were great immigrators is what they were. They moved somewhere, went, cool, we do this here, sweet. Also, we're keeping the Thor symbol. Like they didn't, because I thank you Victorians, and a lot of our primary documentation coming from people who weren't Vikings. So, when the other guy's coming in and competing for things, you don't write nice stuff about them. You'll write disparaging things about them. So a lot of written history has to be taken with a little bit of, did they really rape and pillage their way across the planet, or did they really just kind of raid the occasional monastery? And what we have is the monks getting mad.
Yeah. Apparently
You have to remember
Scandinavia
sometimes,
is Norway, Denmark, and Sweden. If you bring Iceland and Finland in, you're in the Nordic countries. Wow.
depending on your time frame. Again, nationality, countries, race, myth. They're not real and they change. So when you're talking 11th century Scandinavian countries, they aren't the Scandinavian countries you're thinking now. When you're talking 9th century Scandinavia, it's different than 10th century Scandinavia.
You had Denmark doing England, France, Spain, and the southern part.
Yes.
Norway in
As
Ireland,
of
Scotland,
around the
Iceland,
11th
and the
to
Arctic.
13th century.
And Sweden is more into
Again,
Russia and down to the Middle Eastern.
Yes, depending on your time. Yes. When you're covering a group of people that go several centuries, those borders move. They are fluid.
They are arbitrary lines on maps.
Well, not even maps. They're just arbitrary lines that change.
Occasionally corresponding to real-world things like rivers.
Yes, we tend to still use rivers and mountains when possible. You also have to remember that they don't think of themselves like nationality, nationhood, like I am French, I from France kind of concepts do not exist till later. It is not a thing. It is not a thing. So to give them the concept of nationality is us putting our biases on their thinking habits, which is something you try not to do. It's going to happen, but you try not to do it. And you try to, at the very least, cut out the super obvious one.
Right.
Because it's not appropriate. It would be like me looking back, or you looking back at practices for apprenticeship and going, oh my God, but they're still children. Okay, the concept of childhood is still very, very, very new. So while chronologically we would consider them children, that's not fair to the culture to which they were raised, because in their culture, and if you were to ask them, they would tell you they are not kids because they weren't raised with those concepts. So we have to be very careful, especially when we talk nationality, especially when we talk cultures, especially when we talk countries, because our views on it are very definitive and very hard, and theirs were not likely the same way.
Mm-hmm.
To use
almost like things change when time passes.
Yes, the only constant is things change. So, with the rough concept that Vikings were traders, they were sailors. So, as much as we love the look of the Thor from the movies, it wasn't all of them. Also, Thor was a redhead. Wasn't all of them. They were much more likely to have been sailor-sized and shaped, which means lean, wiry. And well, yes, could wield broadswords and battle axes. Most people who were trained to war could also do that. So, like, they would have, on average, been no bigger than a farmer. Would they have consistently perhaps been taller than other cultures that did more agriculture than stock raising? Yes. You get more calcium and more meat protein in your younger years, you tend to be a bit taller. You tend to be a bit broader. But we're not talking a significant gap in size ranges, statistically speaking.
Right.
Did you have blue-eyed blondes? Oh yeah, they show up. That's the part of the world they tend to come from. Just genetics. That's fine. But they weren't all blue-eyed blondes. The horned helmets are completely made up by the 21st century. Concepts of them being vicious is a Victorian trademark. Thanks, Victorians. That they were all pagans, also false. Thanks, Victoria. So there's a lot of misnomers about Viking culture. The same with pirates. The same with Egyptians. Yeah. The same with pick a historical background, right? It's all there. The Greenland settlement is famous because it was abandoned. It's famous for the mystery of why it was abandoned. And most historians go, it was probably several things, not just one thing. Because there is a wonderful, and at this point we all accept, untrue story that there was a missing eastern Greenland settlement. That when the Vikings left Greenland, they left the eastern settlement behind. we don't think that anymore because there is no evidence for that to have been the case. So Greenland is not very hospitable. Anybody who can Google map Greenland, she's a bit
It
of a
seems
harsh
very
climate.
icy.
She's a bit of a harsh climate, which is fine. The Vikings that went there they went from a lot of stock raising to marine based. We can see that in the diets that they ate and the evidence that's left behind. Makes sense. They're near an ocean. They would have already had a fair amount of marine, so they just increased the fish and decreased the cattle a little. That makes sense. That's adaptive to your geography. There's debates on east versus west settlements because the east settlement could have just been like half a kilometer east of the west settlement. It didn't actually have to be any farther east than that. It could have been the eastern side of the settlement and not even a separate settlement. It could have been a separate settlement. It could have been the same settlement with two sides. And all you need to do is look at what we do now. You will have an eastern half of the city and the western half of the city. And if you get very specific, you'll get a lot of people who will get very mad if you call them from the west when they're from the east. My primary example is here in Winnipeg. We have an area of the city called Kildonan. You can come from West Kildonan or you can come from East Kildonan. It's all Kildonan. But if you tell somebody from West Kildonan and you say, oh, East Kildonan, you will be corrected. And you will be corrected very quickly. Because no, they're from West Kildonan. So maybe, probably not. They got in when they arrived. Shortly after they arrived, you saw an increase of walrus tusk trading, which was an export for them. You see that ivory, walrus ivory, show up all over the place. And a lot of it comes out of Greenland. So your stock and trade is exports. It's mostly ivory. That's fine. That's a thing that occurs. So you have that going out. The collapse is thought to have been a combination of the Little Ice Age, the plague, and a decrease in walrus ivory exporting in exchange for elephant ivory exporting out of Africa. So it's sort of just seen now as a grouping of things that all happened roughly at the same time that made everybody go, this is a bad idea, we're going home. And they leave.
Makes total sense.
Which is far less fun than the sagas and the stories and the myths and the group of ice or Vikings that are living on the other, just on the other side of that ice shelf in a warm space that are completely detached from time, and like it'll be like wild myths, guys, wild myths and sagas out of this settlement when it was probably moderately prosperous, and then it just got hit with a lot of bad things all at once. And the survivors went, we can't, and we have to move. And then being the kind of people that they were, moved. They just moved. Which makes sense. If you have a little ice age coming in and you already live on the edge of the Arctic tundra,
it's gonna get,
you're gonna go
your
south.
already hard mode is gonna get a lot harder very fast.
Harder? Yeah, you're gonna go south. You get hit by the plague, the whole world gets hit by the plague. That heavily influences trading. And if you are import dependent, the ships aren't
That makes
coming
things
anymore.
a lot harder.
It makes it a lot harder. So it just you look at leaving. Like anybody in their right mind is going to look at leaving. They're not. It's not a place you can raise kids. It's not a place you can have your family. You got to go somewhere you can make a living. So they would have. Honestly, it would have been a very practical reasons. Less fun than the mysterious Viking settlement in the east that lives just over, or that they were wiped out because the Inuit came and slaughtered them all. Also, not likely to be true. In fact, when it's recorded, the guy who records it goes, "Here, probably. This feels like a stock answer from the Inuit people who went, oh, you want a story? Here, have a story." So yeah, you have that, and you have confusions because they were Christian. There were bishops for Iceland and Greenland, and I mean, your bishop didn't have to live in the area that he was the bishop for. They recommended it, but it wasn't necessarily speaking strictly necessary. So you have bishops For Greenland, well after there's no Greenland. So you have that confusion in the documentation as well. So you can see how it gets a bit of a cluster. And like any good ghost story or unsolved mystery, it just lingers. Here in North America, you have the Roanoke settlement. We have some fairly, basic theories on what probably would have occurred, but because we don't have evidence on the ground, conspiracy theories abound. Because of course they do.
Of course.
Did the Vikings do great things? Absolutely. They helped link cultures. They helped spread concepts, ideas, ways of doing things. They got to North America second because technically indigenous people would have done it first. So like they beat the English and the Spaniards. Like they did a lot of stuff in a fairly short realm of time. They came close to running Britain. So like they did a lot of good and interesting stuff, but they weren't as black and white as we would like them to be. So like as a people, fascinating. As a culture, super fascinating. As a rabbit hole, yeah, there's a reason why there are people who specifically study Viking history or Egyptian history, or because there's such huge concepts to wrap your brain around. And none of these are areas of expertise for me. So I'm literally walking in going, what?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. They weren't overly violent. They were very good traders. They acclimated well to different cultures, and most of what we know is false. Awesome.
Didn't the Vikings run Britain as the Normans? Is the question.
No. Because Normans come out of Normandy, which is Upper France, which is technically a mix of Britain and Vikings that coming down through in, I believe it is the early Middle Ages. So technically, no. Vikings tend to become Anglo-Saxons, is how you see this switch into there. Because again, they got there and they did not stay separate. They became a part of the culture that was there. That would be like me telling Diana she can't be Canadian because she's not Indigenous First Nations, nor does she have a part of Indigenous First Nations in her background. That's not how it works. She is Canadian because that is the culture to which she has grown up in. So they would have arrived as Vikings, but they would have become Anglo-Saxons. They would have gone to what became Normandy, France, and they would have become Normans. They would have there's no real way to separate the two. Now, you're going to have people who jump up and down and scream, but again, is it because that's how it is, or it's because that's how their concept of nationality has triggered the effect, right? Which again, isn't them, it's us, not them. So technically, yeah, they were Normans who would have had Viking ancestry in them, but the Vikings went everywhere. There's an hour-plus long podcast about Vikings in Baghdad. A very specific niche. There's Vikings going to Antarctica. There's Vikings going to, they went everywhere.
Antarctica seems like a very far way to go on the kind of boats that they had.
Well, that was not like their boats were any different than other people's boats. They weren't rocking a wildly different boat.
I guess I just had it in my head that nobody really went to Antarctica until later, I guess.
Yeah, think about it.
But I actually never really thought about it, so.
The Polynesian islands, that's all spread through sea travel, and they are fully populated in cultural ideologies and people, but well before the English show up. It's a lot of, how did they manage that? They just got on a boat and went, guys. They were very good sailors.
They figured it out.
They understood how the seas worked. They figured it out. So, and they went places and they didn't all come back, but that's normal now. You see it with sailors in modern times. They come from all over the world. And where they stop sailing the sea might be completely opposite to where they were born from. So it just varies. Some of the sailors would have gone. They would have gotten sick. They would have died on the way. They would have gotten to where they were going. They would have fallen in love, gotten married, had kids. They would have fallen in love, had kids, didn't get married, get on the boat, go back home. Like that's how it works. Also, if you see an online thing that says it'll test for your Viking ancestry, it's a lie. It's full up. Don't waste your money. We do not test ancient DNA. We don't compare ancient DNA to modern DNA. We don't do it. Ancient DNA is strictly separate and done in very rare cases. And that is because the bones have to survive, and enough of the marrow has to survive, and enough of there's a lot of we are not taking the small sample size that we have of DNA from ancient people and comparing them to modern people. If you get one of those results, you are related to a modern person of Nordic or Scandinavian descent, which is delightful, good information to know, but that's not how it works. Science says no. We love you, but science says no. My favorite part is the sagas. Guys, read the sagas. They are amazing. They are
The
so much
sagas
fun.
are
I lost so much time.
incredible dramas.
So much time listening to the sagas. I lost so much time, and I could not be happier. It was an absolute delight.
They've actually sailed from South America to the Polynesian Islands. Thor hired. Oh God, the text is too small. Thor something did that on Kon-Tiki.
Yeah. They went everywhere. They were consummate sailors. They were very good at it, but no more violent than anybody else. They were very good at immigrating where they went. If that's where they decided to stay, they were very good at becoming a part of the culture that was there and making tweaks. So you see the Thor symbols, you see the building architecture show up, you see that you see their culture in snippets all over the place, which is how we know they were there. And that they stayed long enough to become a part of the culture. But some of the biggest names and most famous Vikings in history are third generation Christians. So this concept most of us have of them being strictly pagan is also not accurate.
Thanks, past historians, for imposing your will on history.
What? Is it?
I mean, we're probably still doing it. We're just more aware of it.
Is it past historians, or is it us not? Is it us being so afraid of concepts of others that we make everybody into boxes that we can understand and not allow them the fluidity of what they would have actually been? It's
I think we're always guilty of putting our biases on stuff, and we're just more aware of it now than we used to be. But back in the day, the people that wrote the stuff we're referencing just
I'd argue no. Take a look at anything that's being published by any of the streaming services or Hollywood, and I would argue no. We are no more aware of our biases now than we were in the start of the 19th century.
Being aware of our biases, I meant more in the academic sense, the academic community. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Culture, pop culture wise, absolutely not. But I meant academically. Academics now are more aware.
We tend to hedge our bets a lot and go, okay, maybe.
Whereas
but we
the academic people
for sure because
back in the day that wrote all the stuff that was the truth for so many years, we're absolutely not conscious of that.
A lot of that uneducating that has to go on, which is fine. It's a part of the process. But no, it's I got fascinated in the concept that stories like the Greenland settlement, which, guys, seriously, go read the sagas on the Greenland settlement. They're so cool. They're so epic. You're just ugh, why is nobody making films out of this? I would absolutely watch fantasy films out of Viking sagas. Wouldn't you? Oh,
they're so incredibly complex. Of the couple that I've read summaries of, it's and then this thing happens. It's a soap opera.
Oh, it is. It totally is. But they're so good. Anyway, I wish we would actually make new movies and do things like that out of the myths and stories. That'd be so good. But that set aside, there is a running theory that you can find in some of the academic research where the Greenland settlement mystery has remained such a thing for us because we are so afraid of cultural decline and societal collapse that it is for us like the fall of the Roman Empire, which is another thing that we study obsessively because our concept of ideology is so intrinsically wrapped up in our civilization that any other collapse of a civilization that we can observe causes us to do that car crash watch. Like we all have to stare, right? Like we all slow down, we all look at it, we all go, how did that happen? Like we want to know to try to prevent it in our own cultural aspects. Where in a lot of the stuff that I was reading, we were like, whereas when you look at it, you realize you can't prevent it. There is, if it's going
No,
to happen, it is outside your control.
there's too
That's
many
kind
factors.
of the point. Yeah, that's the point, and that's why it fascinates us so because it is outside our control. So we panic about it. I'm like, you're not wrong. You're, you're not wrong, and this is unsettling. And I can't listen to After Dark, the After Dark podcast, when the sun's down because the ghost stories creep me out. You're not wrong. So I understand how our tiny monkey brains got here. Good. But no, yeah, read the sagas, guys. Go read the sagas. Delightful. Just the whole culture's delightful. Also, cats. Freya, cats. We all need cats in our house. I want to revive that practice. Husbands would give wives kittens. You could get a pair of kittens. It's a bridal, part of your bridal.
Oh, really?
Because cats pulled Freya's chariot. So the gifting of cats for a wedding was a thing. I was like, yes, let's bring that back. You see that in some of the sagas. I'm like, yes, could that be true? Can that be true? I'd like that to be true. I have no idea. I haven't studied the culture for 15 years. I have no idea. But it's in a couple of the sagas. And some points it was like, excuse me, what are they doing? And I back it up. No, they legit gifted cats. Okay, cool.
Also would like links to sources.
Sure.
Podcasts and the like.
Honestly, if you want to start, if you have Spotify, right? Yes, if you have Spotify, put in Vikings and narrow the search down to podcasts. You could start with History Hit. There was hours on History Hit, guys. Hours on History Hit, which is academic level history. And each one of those history hits had a special guest, and that special guest had their own links to their own stuff that they were doing. So I tend to start with History Hit right now because that automatically jumps me into academic sources. Or what's the Google academic one? It's like Google Academia.
Something like that.
Something like that. I don't remember what it is specifically, but that's
I don't do academic research very often.
The best entryway in is through something like a podcast, which would be the History Hit groupings or any of the other history podcasts that you get. Stay away from chatty, funny ones. They're chatty, they are funny, they are enjoyable, but stick to ones that reference or talk to other academics, because that will give you a stronger basis in the academic
Google
world.
Scholar for the academic stuff.
Google Scholar. Yeah, that works. So if you do that, it will primarily list for you academic sources to start with. Just be very specific with your keywords. In Spotify, I started with Vikings, history, Greenland, settlement. And then I backed it up to Vikings history. But like there's still podcast episodes that I have not made it to a month later about the Vikings. Like the Vikings in Baghdad, not done it. So finish it.
Baghdad's very far south and east, is it not?
Yeah, it's
from the like traditional Viking territory.
Oh yeah,
okay.
Yeah, it's way out there. And you're like,
all right.
Sure.
Now I've got some kind of like Viking Aladdin mashup.
Of course you do.
Absolutely inaccurate, but it would be a good time.
It would be so fun. So it's just like, what now? But yeah, no, right now I'm tending to, like, if people want a place to start, History Hit, because they are academics talking about academic history. So they list to books published out of university presses by professors, by people with master's programs, by people who, have been studying this field for a while. Start there, because you get the fun podcast, and then you can sort of putter off into whatever catches your eye, right? Because what I go with is not what everyone else is going to go with. Like, not everyone is going to get excited about 12th and 11th century church documentations quite the way I do. And that's fair. I thought the sagas were fun. I get more stoked about law documentation. I'm not normal. A list
Baghdad
of
was
grain
reached
per year.
through Russia down the rivers. All right, my geography of that part of the world is absolute crap, so I'm gonna have to look at a map after this.
Yeah, probably, yeah. And again, whatever the map tells you, the moment you start reading about history stuff, the map's wrong.
The geography map.
Geography map, yeah, that'll give you a good idea of how things work and stuff, so that helps. But you have to be very, very careful with it, because it changes all the time.
Oh yeah.
And absolutely everyone is going to tell you that they've always been there. And that's not, strictly speaking, accurate. It's accurate to their perception, but that's not necessarily speaking accurate to the archaeology. Right?
Yeah,
So, like,
always
you have to
only goes back 3 or 4 generations.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah. It's the same with, especially with the sagas, when we look at them as a historical piece of documentation, we have to be very careful, because they're oral. And
oh yeah, that's gonna get embellished at every tiling.
And humans suck. Like, our memory is awful. Oh, our memory is just the worst. It's just the worst. So you'll get these huge stories, and we can be like, okay, I mean, excellent. They're absolutely entertaining. They teach things. They're great for the culture and stuff. But can we anchor it into what actually happened? Maybe.
It would be like trying to tell like modern historical events from soap operas.
Yeah. And I mean, and all you have to do is stop and think about it. Like, okay, so let's do the unthinkable. Society collapses. We lose the internet. We lose television. We lose these modern things. Fast forward 100 years, essentially 2 human lifetimes. 2, guys, 2. And what might be left might be snippets of a Twitter account, maybe a novella out of Mexico, which is like a soap opera. And what kind of information do you think they're going to be guessing that we were like?
Like, all you can really take out of that is like cultural norms and what was important to society at the time, but it's not.
Are you sure?
I mean, ish.
What if the only tweets that survive are from Trump? Are you sure? Yeah. Like, you're assuming best case scenario. And you can't make that assumption. What if all that is remembered out of this century is Elon Musk?
Or Simpsons and South Park? Yeah, okay, fair.
Yeah, so you have to, so when you look back at history, you have to be very careful, because we don't know what survived. And we lose huge swaths of information because it's considered common knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Good example, medieval sword art samples.
Yep.
We're guessing, because nobody writes out what the forms are, because it's basic common knowledge. Everybody and their dog knows how to do this. Yeah. Fast forward. No, we don't. No, we don't. Talk to people now. Like, most people don't know things like there was more than one type of cotton. Like, most people don't even know that, and it's considered common knowledge.
So I was thinking, like, people now don't like write down how to drive a car.
We don't. And guess what? That's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. And people are going to look back at us in 100 years and think we're barbarians. How could we? How could we? How stupid could we possibly have been? Clearly, the people now are far more modern and better educated and
Obviously, yeah.
smarter. And yeah, but you can see it in the writing all the way back, all the way back. Yeah, and they're
How
going to
did
make
they
baseline
think it was a good
assumptions.
idea to do it this way when it's
They're going to
obviously
make
a
baseline
terrible
assumptions
idea?
strictly based on what is considered correct for the time that they're in.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
It'll be
it
real
makes it so
interesting.
tricky. So tricky. That's what makes history fun, because like you look back at it and then your brain has to go, wait. How am I flavoring this? Because I absolutely am.
What pieces are
Absolutely
missing?
What pieces are missing? Like when you ask me, I don't think there was two settlements. I think it was one settlement with a west side and an east side. I think it was one singular settlement. And I think honestly, the trade declined, the plague hit, and everybody said, "Fubar this, we're going home." Got on a boat and left. I don't think it was a massive incursion. I don't think they all dropped dead of the plague. I think they just got hit with a bunch of little things. And the smart people said, "We're going home." And the ones that stuck their foot in the ground died. That's what I think. It's not
But that
fancy.
doesn't make
It's
a very
not
good story, so
flashy.
they made something up that
But
sounded better.
yeah. So like but the very practical part of my brain went, people like me went, no, and we left. What? No, and we left. Just no, I'm done. I can't make money. I can't feed my kids. It's getting too cold and it's too unpredictable. I'm going somewhere where it's steadier income. It's safer to raise children. It's safer to raise my cattle. It's safer for me. That's what I would do. But not everybody thinks like that. Some people get very attached and they won't leave because it's their home. They've always been there. Again, that bad, crappy memory that humans have. So it's going to be a variation. But what survives, right? Like maybe the
Yeah.
only ones that survive are the people that left. And they told those stories the way they told it, but they didn't talk about Bob, who they left behind because he decided he didn't want to go. Right? So, you don't know. Like everybody in history, if I don't know their name, it's Bob. My primary example. I'm sorry to all the Bobs that I do not know in this world. It's just the first name that comes out of my face.
Poor Bob.
History is fun. No, not fun.
It's fun.
It makes us
Yeah.
think. I am aware.
Yeah.
At the end of this, I've just raised more questions than I have answered anything. I know. I'm sorry. It's how history works.
Yeah. History is always told by the winners, yeah.
Yeah.
It's told by the people who survived and got to write stuff down.
It's told by the survivors. Otherwise, it doesn't happen. And it only lasts for so long.
It's not a double crochet. That is an incorrect stitch.
Sure you do.
There we go.
But that's it. We're done, right?
I believe so. I think we've talked about all the things. We've had our TED Talk. We've been on for a little over 2 hours.
It's such a mashup, and I don't know how to make them shorter because it's just heaven only knows where I'm going to end up. And I can end up in all sorts of places. Who knows? It's things. Silence. I'm going to do an outro.
Yeah, let's do an outro because, yeah, I'm hungry.
No duh. Guys, I'm going to say that I'm Jocelyn.
And I'm Diana.
And no matter where your week takes you, don't forget to knit.
Don't forget to knit.